So we can add this to the long list of reasons why the US and the US government in particular is seen as the biggest threat to world peace. This is from Al Jazeera. US rejects Iraq request to discuss troop withdrawal. Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi made the request in a phone call with US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Thursday. The U.S. rebuffed an Iraqi request on Friday to prepare to pull out its troops amid heightened U.S.-Iranian tensions following the U.S. It says kill, and it should say U.S. assassination of Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani. Seeking to tighten pressure on its rival, the U.S. meanwhile imposed more sanctions on Iran, responding to an attack on U.S. troops in Iraq launched by Tehran in retaliation for the assassination of Soleimani. Iraq looks set to bear the brunt of any further violence between neighboring Iran and the U.S. Its leaders are caught in a bind as Washington and Tehran are also Iraqi's government main allies and vie for influence. Iraq's caretaker Prime Minister Abdul Mahdi made his request in a phone call with U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo late on Thursday. In line with a vote by Iraq's parliament last week, his office said in a statement, Abdul Mahdi asked Pompeo to, quote, send delegates to put in place to carry out the parliament's decision, it said, adding without elaborating that forces used in the killing had entered Iraq or used its airspace without permission. That's also true. And then here's the U.S.'s horrible but predictable response. However, the U.S. State Department said any U.S. delegation would not discuss the withdrawal as their presence in Iraq was appropriate. Appropriate for who? Wasn't it just last week or so that Pompeo was saying that, he was very concerned about protecting Iraqi freedom, their sovereignty, their democracy, when the Iraqi parliament has voted to expel all U.S. troops from the country. The prime minister does not want us there. The citizens of Iraq don't want us there. The U.S. citizens don't want us there. The only people that are still benefiting from the U.S. troop presence in Iraq is the military industrial complex, and we saw how their stocks rose, quite substantially after Soleimani was assassinated by the, Trump administration. So it's just, again, another clear example of how the U.S. is willing to, violate, any type of semblance of law and violating Iraqi, sovereignty. They clearly voted to expel all U.S. troops. The Prime Minister of Iraq has asked the U.S. to, come up with a plan to withdraw the troops, and the U.S. government is saying it's not appropriate. How is the U.S. is just such. The U.S. is the rogue state here. It's not Iran. It's not, North Korea or Russia or anything like that. Time and time again, it's been the United States government that has just run roughshod over both U.S. law and international law, both with the assassination of Soleimani, but also violated Iraqi sovereignty, and then there's just further slap in the face to the people of Iraq and their government. The people don't want us there, but we're saying it's not appropriate. That's just so disgusting on the part of the U.S. government. And then this is some more from the State Department. There does, however, need to be a conversation between the U.S. and Iraqi governments, not just regarding security, but our financial, economic, and diplomatic partnership. The conversation is the Iraqi people and their government want us out of there, so how can we do that as quickly as possible? That's the only conversation that needs to be happening right now. Iraq's top Shia leader on Friday condemned the U.S.-Iranian confrontation taking place on Iraqi soil, saying it risks plunging an already war-ravaged country and the wider Middle East into deeper conflict. That's definitely a very legitimate concern. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani said it was Iraqis who stood to suffer most from U.S.-Iranian conflict. In a message delivered through a representative at Friday's prayers in the holy city of Karbala, al-Sistani said no foreign power should be allowed to decide Iraqi's fate. Agreed. The State Department, Pompeo, Pence, Trump, they've, all talk about Iraqi sovereignty and valuing their freedom and democracy, but the Iraqi people and their government have made it crystal clear. You could see through it. It's so clear. They do not want us there. We need to listen. It's not making the U.S. any safer. It's making us less safe. It's wasting money. It's putting U.S. soldiers, troops, in harm's way, as well as, endangering the lives of Iraqis and other people in the region. And we need to respect the wishes of their country. How would we like it if the U.S. was being occupied by, let's say, just for example, like North Korean forces, and, we voted to, they were already there illegally for a illegal offensive war that was based on lies, like the Iraq War, obviously, but they still, the U.S. government voted to expel, all presence of North Korean troops in the United States, but the, North Korean government said it wasn't appropriate. We're just going to continually occupy your country, even though the people of the U.S. and the U.S. government have explicitly said and voted us out. We're still going to stay there because it's not appropriate. That would be the same thing. And, if this was happening in the U.S., the people in the U.S. would be up in arms, but because our government is doing it to a different country, it doesn't have the same effect on people in the homeland, but it's equally, disturbing and unethical and immoral and illegal. Quote, the latest dangerous, aggressive acts, which are repeated violations of Iraqi sovereignty, are part of a deteriorating situation in the region, al-Sistani said. Al-Sistani, who wields huge influence over public opinion, Iraq only weighs in on politics during times of crisis and is seen as a voice of moderation. Quote, the people have suffered enough from wars. Iraq must govern itself and there must be no role for outsiders in its decision-making, Sistani said. Yes, on point, Sistani. Listen to what the Iraqi people and their government want. They want the U.S. gone. They want all U.S. troops out of the country. It would be what's best for Iraq, for Iran, the whole region, and be what's best for the, the U.S. troops who wouldn't be wasting money, billions and trillions of dollars over there when our country is falling apart in a lot of ways, or instead of death and bombs, we could be using that money for diplomatic and humanitarian purposes. Let's see. At Friday prayers in Tehran, an Iranian Muslim leader said U.S. interests across the world were now exposed to threats. From now on, having too many bases, especially in this region, will not act as an advantage for them, Mohammed Javad Haj Ali Akbari, a mid-ranking Muslim leader, told worshippers. Since Soleimani's killing, Tehran has stepped up its calls for U.S. forces to leave Iraq. Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, I always have a hard time pronouncing his name, has said that the retaliatory attacks were not enough and that ending the U.S. military presence in the region was Tehran's main goal. It's, that seems to be the goal of pretty much everybody but the military-industrial complex and the, war hawks within the U.S. government and military. But yes, it would be, again, getting all U.S. troops out of Iraq would be what's best for the Iraqi people, their government. They don't want us there. Iran doesn't want us there. The U.S. population does not want us in Iraq. Again, the only people that want us there are war hawks, warmongers who are in the, pocket of the military-industrial complex, and so they've never met a war or a potential war or a conflict that they didn't like because it supports the military-industrial complex, corporations that they are deeply in bed and corrupted by. But again, it's not making the U.S. any safer. It's wasting money, It's costing lives to both, U.S. Soldiers, contractors, and then 500 plus thousand Iraqis, have been killed since the U.S. illegally started the Iraq War in 2003, and then we've been occupying the, country since then, and the U.S. military basically wants it to be an ongoing occupation that only serves the interests of the military industrial complex, and is good for their corporate profits, but heavily detrimental to literally everything else, and it's not making us any safer. It's making us less safe. So Soleimani was assassinated, and then Trump basically almost got us, the US, into a war. That didn't make us safe. That made us much less safe. So listen to the Iraqi people, listen to the US people, listen to the Iraqi government, listen to the Iranian people, listen to the Iranian government. Get all troops out of Iraq as soon as possible. Like yesterday, we should have never been there in the first place, and we definitely do not need to be there now. Share your comments in the comment section down below, and please help me get to 100 subscribers. Once I do, me and my daughter will take a polar plunge, and it's currently winter here in the Pacific Northwest, so it would be quite chilly, and we would document it on the GoPro. Peace.